Well, I wanted to end this season by talking about something that's so important to me, and something that I have been working on for this entire third season. I want to continue working on this too because it really pays off in dividends multiple times over, and I'm going to go over that with you right now and share all of that with you. Let's get started. I'm not even wasting any time. It's eliminating distractions. That's right, eliminating distractions. And we might think, wait, distractions are everywhere. Well, they are. But I want to talk about why this is such an important topic today, especially one to end this season. Now, this season has been all about, if you've been listening or watching this whole season, it started at the end of January. We are now pretty much in mid-May. And I've been talking about this through the whole season. It's all been about relatability. If you're following me regularly and you keep listening to these episodes or watching them as I've been talking about, you have seen a shift in some of the things that I am bringing to you on this channel, through my podcast, in my social media, and everything else. And I've always had a vision for this podcast to be a means to come into more strength through the power of practicing yoga. And I don't mean just stretching or touching your toes or doing physical yoga. That's not what we're talking about here. I mean living every single day on a path of purpose. And that will lead to freedom that you will have to live the life that you've always wanted to, right here, right now. Not 20 years from now. Not 5 years from now. Yes, you are going to have goals, and yes, you're going to have dreams and aspirations and things you're working towards. But I think living the life you want to live right now with purpose is yoga. And so the strength that it takes, right, through the power of practicing will lead to ultimately the freedom that you deserve. Hence the terms that I came up with for this podcast, this channel, the strength, yoga, and freedom. So the podcast serves as a way for me to really freely express who I am. And so you are starting to see more of my favorite things pop up, like the cruising, like the theme parks, and of course, the types of episodes like this that I'm bringing you now, or the type of motivational things that are happening that are really serve as the methods to getting towards that freedom that you're wanting. And I'm not saying that your freedom includes cruise vacations or theme parks or something like that. Those are just my hobbies. But again, I'm using that as an example of relatability and how it's helping me in my life. Your passion, whatever it is, can be achieved the exact same way. So this whole thing, it all comes full circle, and the methods, like in this episode, are going to drive you into your freedom and your happiness in your own life right now. So we talked this season about methods being used to living the day-to-day life that I live that have helped me out, like drinking water first thing in the morning, cutting down the alcohol or eliminating it altogether, dealing with the grief and the loss of Cody, my 19-year-old cat, who we lost in January, life-changing habits that help you day in and day out, part of morning routines and evening routines, things you do throughout your day, pauses throughout your day, things that you're doing on a weekly basis, monthly basis, all those methods that are out there. We talked a lot about, with Tavi Rose, about insecurities, being a beginner, stopping words, narcissism, relationships. And listen, these episodes were all about things that I'm going through in my life. They're all personal to me, and I wanted to share that with you. That's the strength and the yoga part of this podcast. The freedom then comes into play when I started to give you other episodes like planning your theme park trip, planning the cruise vacations, because I've been doing those things too on a much higher scale than I've ever done in my life. And then there is one last thing, though, that comes into play that I want to talk to you about before we conclude this third season of all of these episodes, whether they're methods or motivational episodes or fun episodes and the things that I'm doing and having fun. And this is something that I've really had to work hard on in order to get myself to be where I am now and to be moving forward on my path of purpose, which I know many of you can relate to. When you're moving through your path of purpose, you're looking for something, even though you might not know what exactly that is. As you practice these methods and you start doing the things that you really enjoy doing now, you are suddenly living the life that you want to be living, even though you still think there's a lot more coming. And there is a lot more coming, but suddenly what you're working towards, it becomes here and now for you. And what I want to talk about in order to get to that spot too and keep moving in that spot is eliminating distractions and working with integrity. So what really is a distraction? Well, a distraction is simply something that prevents you from giving your full attention to something else. And what is integrity? Well, integrity is a quality of being honest and having strong moral principles or moral uprightness, or even being whole and undivided. That's integrity. Now, I've recently, as an adult, I'm going to share this with you. I have recently, here I am, 41 years old, have been diagnosed with ADHD and OCD. This is my diagnosis, mind you. This is diagnosed by a professional. As I talk further about this diagnosis, because this is going to play into what I'm talking about here, I want to remind you that if you're feeling some of the things that I talk about, there is definitely power in talking with a professional to tailor a personalized plan for yourself. Whether that's therapy, whether that's a trusted friend, maybe it's online work that you're doing, whatever it is, there is power in that process. But what I've actually discovered over the past several weeks is that I am trying really hard to manage my own anxiety by using ADHD and OCD to cope with my own anxiety. And what happens is my brain tends to go into overdrive. But my brain does not control me. I control my brain. And the reason this has happened for me personally, and maybe for you, is I grew up and became a young adult, and there was nothing but distractions all around me. And I was constantly carrying a sword to fight them off because I did not know how to cope with things by dropping that sword, letting it all go, and using the tools and the tricks that are out there to manage this. So I was just running blind by this because I was never taught how. I was never given an environment to feel safe in or feel loved in as a child or growing up into a young adult. And so now as an adult, I'm learning how to do this one day at a time. And it is not easy. It is a lot of work. And a lot of the fun things you see through this podcast or YouTube channel are a result of me working through the anxiety and trying to manage the anxiety with the obsessive compulsive thoughts that I have and the distractions that my brain wants to go all over the place. When I finally start to settle in, the freedom that comes with the fun and with the hobbies and with doing the things that I enjoy, and not just those things, but living everyday life and enjoying it, that all comes with hard work that you don't see. That goes on behind the scenes. So what makes all of that a little easier? Well, creating habits and routines help me every single day. That's why I teach that to you about morning routines, as I've mentioned before, and evening routines and things you do every day that become a part of who you are, that help you to eliminate distractions and focus on something that's moving you forward instead of keeping you stuck or in the past. Now, what are the habits and the routines that help me out so much in my day-to-day life? Well, those I went over, there were 20 of them. I went over them in episode 10 of this season. So you can go back and listen to that or watch that episode. Those habits and routines have been life-changing. But I want to talk about the distractions that are around me that I've been trying to eliminate. And there's a ton of them, but I'm just going to give you a little snippet. The first one is cell phone use that is mindless. So for me, when I hear people say, oh, social media is just destroying everything and our cell phones are the death of humanity and da-da-da-da, I kind of disagree with that. I like to embrace technology because I think that technology can bring us together if we're doing it the right way. My opinion is, I don't believe that we all use technology in a way that brings us together. We use it in a way that divides us, and we use it in a way that pushes our authenticity into, it just shoves it into almost like a paper bag and tosses it away. And so mindful cell phone use is okay. Mindless cell phone use is not okay. So sometimes what I will do is I will feel like I need to check all kinds of things. I need to check my email. I need to check my bank statements. I need to check how many likes are on the social media. And I need to check what's going on here and what's going on at this particular place. And I have to stay up to date on all of this stuff. That to me is, again, it's that ADHD, that OCD going all over the place so that it manages my anxiety. And I start to feel like I'm in FOMO mode, feel like I'm missing out on things. And so eliminating mindless cell phone use has been extremely helpful for me. Another thing that I work to eliminate, and I'm working to even level this up, is idle chit chat about other people's behavior that has no effect on me. You could call that gossiping if you want. I define gossiping as talking about what other people do or say or how they look or just their behavior patterns that you have no concrete proof as to why those things are happening, and you just start idly chit-chatting about it or making assumptions about why people do what they do and the intent behind it and how it's affecting other people. And that's all a bunch of nonsense. And you probably hear a lot of that, maybe when you're at work, maybe in your family, maybe with your siblings. But when you stop focusing on everybody else's dating life, or you stop focusing on what other people are doing in their spare time, or how other people talk to other people, conflicts that don't involve you, or how others are doing with their particular job that doesn't affect you, or even what other people put on social media, then when you start to get rid of all of these things, you free up so much space to focus on the things that matter most to you. Because what matters to other people matters to other people. It doesn't matter to you. Now, yes, of course, someone else if you share a hobby or a shared interest, then yes, you can say that what matters to them matters to you. But it's different. It's a different mattering, right? It might matter to them on a different level. So you can bond like that. But as far as really what else matters to other people, that does not concern you at all when you're trying to move forward in your path. And another big one that I needed to eliminate is rumination, or repeating thoughts and scenarios over and over again. For example, if other people are out and about or are doing all kinds of things, I might think, why am I not doing that? Why can't I do that? Or I'm a lesser of a person because I'm not, running day in and day out, or I'm not, making this kind of money, or I'm not doing that kind of a contribution to this or whatever. And then I repeat all that. And then I try to form like a plan in my head so that, if, for example, if something happened, like there was a person who was a little bit nasty to me, again, that happens. It's not my fault that they're nasty, but if it happens, sometimes I replay that in my brain over and over and over, and then I try to formulate a plan so that if it were to happen again, I have like a plan. Instead of just letting it go, being what it was, and moving my energy to where it belongs, which is, if someone's going to be nasty to me, they're not going to get my energy for a little while because they might need to work on something else to get their own energy back. And I can't let that affect mine. So when I drop the repetitive thoughts or the the cycle of thoughts over and over, and this has been really hard, and I'm still working on this a lot. That distraction gets removed. Now I'm focusing on all the things that matter most to me, and that's not how, and not these scenarios that just repeat themselves in my head, which don't really have any business in my head. And then you can even talk about eliminating a distraction by talking about a relationship that no longer serves you. I have found over the past 6 to 8 months that there are so many relationships that have just kind of like fallen away, and it's really, I've tried to force them to stay around, but it hasn't worked. And so relationships that no longer serve me is a distraction that has now been eliminated. And you can either eliminate the whole relationship if you absolutely have to, or you just change the way that the relationship works. And maybe you're just not as accessible as you used to be, or maybe you're not sharing as much as you used to be, or whatever the case may be. But when you start to match energies with people who have your common interests, or as I mentioned just before, when we're talking about what matters to others might matter to you, or maybe it doesn't matter to you. When we're talking about bonding over common interests, relationships that don't have any common ground anymore start to fall away, and that's normal and that's natural. And I have had this distraction of feeling like the people who are your friends have to be your friends for your entire life, and it just doesn't work like that, because when you are on a path and you're growing and you're moving, distraction of holding on to relationships that are one-sided or don't work anymore just doesn't serve you. And so those are some examples of distractions that I'm working hard to eliminate right now. And there are a lot more. But those are really some big ones. And I really invite you to think about what distractions are in your life right now and what is not aligned with your purpose, and how can you replace those relationships by the next step in your journey, which is working with integrity, which is what I'm going to talk to you about next. And here is what I mean when I say integrity. There's a couple things that I'm practicing living through, and again, it's paying off in dividends. Number one, I don't cut corners anymore. I used to be a huge corner cutter, right? I would try to just kind of weasel my way out of things so that I could get it done and move on to the next task. Again, it's that ADHD brain in the past coming up again. And so things need to be done when you're talking about tasks, or, maybe at your job or something like that. Things need to be done to their fullest while you are creating something, without cheating, without laziness or cut-throughs. So honoring what I'm doing and being present and mindful is very important. An example of that is if I'm expected to do something at my job. So you work at a job and your leaders tell you these are the policies and the protocols we follow here, then I need to follow those policies and protocol without cutting corners, even if I don't agree with it. And you need to think about that really, really, really hard. If you have never managed anyone, or you've never supervised or trained someone, or been in a position of leadership, or been in or owned your own business, it might be hard to comprehend this, because if you owned a business where you build houses, let's say you're a construction business and you are the owner and you hire everybody to build this house, and they do it by cutting corners and the house falls down, who's responsible? You are. And so you are always responsible when you're in leadership, or you're the one who owns your business. You don't want your reputation or your business or your, sense of everything that you've built, your brand. We use brand a lot now these days with the advent of social media and YouTube and things. You don't want your brand to be squashed by someone who's not working with integrity. And I see it often. I see people who do not follow rules or do what they're supposed to do because they're trying to cut corners and do something that's going to benefit them, not the bigger picture. So cutting corners is not operating in the big picture, and I don't want that in my life. Reliability is another big one for me, and that is showing up. That means showing up. An example of this is a physical yoga practice. My physical yoga practice. How can I possibly teach a physical yoga practice without, number one, showing up to actually practice it? I never understood yoga teachers who teach yoga but never actually physically do it. I don't understand or comprehend that. So if I want to have reliability and I want to work with integrity and I want to show up, I need to be feeling that practice in my own body. So show up and be reliable and be integral in your own life by being the thing that you're actually teaching, doing, facilitating. Another example, and this is the last example of respect and accountability, is my personal opinion about this is it means that when you're talking about respect and accountability, we're talking about honoring life here. And that's serious to me, like honoring life. A living, breathing being is alive. And I feel like we need to honor that. I'm not saying you have to be best friends with everybody who has a breath or a human that has a breath, right? But honoring life is respect. That means to me, we're not manipulating other people. We're not trying to control what other people are doing. We're not lying to other people just to make ourselves look better or cut those corners. We're not judging others based on their behaviors. Now, that does not mean that you tolerate someone's shitty behavior. If someone is abusive in nature and it's harming you in a physical or mental way, then of course you would set boundaries or change the nature of the relationship. In fact, if you tolerate someone's shitty behavior over and over and over and over again, you are not only disrespecting yourself by allowing that, you are disrespecting them. Because, come on, you're an adult. We don't have toddlers watching this channel, listening to this podcast, pretty much adults here. You're an adult, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. Like in the back of your mind, you know that, right? You know what's right, you know what's wrong. And when you disrespect someone else by allowing them to continue to do the things that are wrong over and over, you're basically enabling it. You're enabling that behavior, and that is not honoring someone else's life at all. That's basically saying, yes, what you're doing is harmful or hurtful to yourself and other people or me, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm all for it because I'm allowing it. So go ahead and continue. Even though you're not saying those words, by you allowing that to continue, you're not living in that respect or accountability or honoring life. Some people have to learn that their behavior is less than valuable on their own. And some people have to learn that their behavior is less than desirable on their own. If we keep letting people have crappy behavior, use a theme park scenario. If you watch everybody else, if you're a security guard and you watch everybody else jump in line jump, you're harming everybody involved. You're allowing it and you're hurting the business, you're hurting other people who are waiting, and you're also hurting yourself because you're not standing up for what you know is wrong and you're not doing your job either. And so that is important to me, the respect and the accountability. Accountability falls right into that because holding someone else accountable doesn't mean you put them on trial. It just means you're putting your energy where it's best suitable for yourself and for them. Being accountable to yourself means you honor yourself enough to do the things that are hard, even when you don't want to do them, or you don't feel like doing them. But you're also accountable to others by, again, honoring their life, having open communication, expressing the boundaries, giving your praise, giving your support, being an example of doing good. An example of this is if someone does something that you don't like doing. So if someone is not a theme park fan, you don't want to make the people who are theme park fans feel like they're less than because you're not a theme park fan. I am not a big sports fan. So if you are going to engage in playing sports, have at it, enjoy it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to put you down because of it. And that is respect and that's accountability. Now I want to end this by saying this whole episode and this season by saying this. When I started practicing these distraction eliminations and integrity things and just leveling those things up in my own life day to day, things started to change dramatically. And I have noticed a change specifically in the past couple of weeks. If you were following me, you know I was planning on taking a cruise, and that cruise has happened, and I am back from that cruise. And I'm going to have a lot of content coming out over the summer months about that cruise and some other adventures that I'm going to be on. So if you like that stuff, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel specifically, because that's where it's going to be. And you're on my social media. You can find all of those links in the show notes for that. So if you're on social media with me and you want to follow things, it's all there for you, and it's also in the show notes. But this cruise that I was on might have been actually the most challenging one for myself as a solo traveler, because as far as the relaxation and mindfulness point of view, it seemed to get a little skewed, because I did not realize what I was trying to do as far as planning things and trying to, again, try to have this like game plan to alleviate my anxiety, this OCD. And I ended up sometimes feeling a little worse than I did before, even when I was on vacation, trying to control everything. But when I actually just relaxed and started this new thing that I'm doing, which is basically like, I don't care. Let's just see where things go. I'm going to, of course, stick to the habits and the routines that I know serve me well and that help me to be my best version of myself. I'm going to stick to that, and that keeps me to stay healthy. Once I started to kind of like let that go and be like, I don't care. I'm just going to let this go. If I want to go here, I'm going to go here. If I want to go back there, I'm going to go there. If I want to be away from people, I'm going to do that. When that started happening, all of a sudden I started to meet people, and conversations just automatically started. It wasn't even effort. There was no effort involved. I started to connect to others, and I started to even connect to myself. And then I started to become more present, and then fun started flowing so naturally, it was ridiculous, because I wasn't planning everything. And I know this may sound to a lot of you like, well, I know that already. But again, this is my life unfolding in the hopes that if you are also struggling with this, your life, you can try some of this stuff and see if it unfolds the same way for you. I did this again on my recent trip to Kings Island. When I was there over a weekend, I said, let's just walk around, see what happens. Everywhere I want to go, I'll just go. And I started to see how things were being pieced together, allowing me, again, to meet people while I was in line or eating or something else. Ride certain rides. I was getting into, like, sometimes I got in the front seat of things without even trying, or one of my favorite seats without having to try so hard. And I found the best food without trying, or the best drink without trying. And it just flowed, because what was happening was, this was me eliminating the distractions and that constant need for control, or that constant need to have a plan, or that constant need to manipulate situations. It just started to flow, and it helped relieve all of that tension, and your shoulders just drop down. And so I wanted to leave you with this as a conclusion, that we need to stop trying so hard. We need to stop trying to move around all of the distractions in our life and try to cut the corners to get around them. Because if you start building the strength from the courage just to get things done with your healthy and meaningful habits, if you build that strength day in and day out with healthy, meaningful habits, and then you start practicing the yoga or whatever it is you're practicing in the world, by working with that integrity, by treating others with respect, in whatever form of respect that means, either walking away, bringing people closer, changing relationships, whatever it is, or you work on tasks, or you work on yourself, or you're at your job and you're working with integrity by being present and expressing yourself honestly, you then start to meet the freedom in your life that brings those unexpected moments of pure bliss, pure joy, pure fun, pure happiness, connection, experiences, and we all deserve that. And that is happening. I'm not saying that challenges don't come up, because they will, and they do come up. But the concluding thought is, stop trying so hard. All of those things that we talked about this season have moved us into this new world of being where we want to be. The future self starts to become the present, And then you have another future self waiting for you as you keep doing the things in the present to move yourself forward. This, my friends, is my vision coming to fruition through the title of this podcast and this channel, Strength, Yoga, and Freedom. Coming full circle, and yet there's still so much more ahead. So, as I leave you, don't forget, if you want to continue to see some content on the YouTube channel, be sure you are subscribed, because while we are on a small break from podcast episodes coming out, there will be other content coming out that is motivational, that is fun, that is exciting, and that is going to continue to show what's going on in my life as I work through becoming a better version of myself, in hopes that I can relate to you to inspire you to become a better version of yourself. There's also a weekly newsletter that I send out every Saturday. It's completely free. You can sign up through all the links in the bio or in the show notes. You can follow me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And Season 4 is going to be coming in late June, early July, and there will be some content in between. We're going to continue this relatability right into Season 4 and walk the journey together. I can't wait to see you in Season 4, but I will be seeing you before then through all the fun we're going to have in these summer months. So let's have some fun. Let's recalibrate and, again, find the purpose through the habits, through the routines you're creating, and letting go. Because you deserve to be living the life you want to live right now, not in the future, now. So create that life. You deserve it. I'll see you all very, very soon.